welcome to the Peaceful Woodturner. I've got this piece of oak. A friend of mine gave it to me. It's from a kind of a crotch piece, and I was really hoping to get maybe like a winged bowl out of it. But unfortunately, between when I got it and when I was able to start working on it, you can see it started really checking and cracking. So I've got it down to a point that I think it will be workable, and I've got it mounted up on my faceplate, as you can see here. And I'm just going to make a simple bowl vessel type of thing. I'm going to start by just kind of working off some of the edges and everything else. I might leave a little bit of a natural edge, but I want to see how it turns out once I start getting in past these checks. So I've got it on the faceplate, and let's get it mounted up. So we're mounted up, and it's actually more balanced than I expected it to be. I didn't have a whole lot of shake and shimmy when I just gave it a little test spin. I'm going to be going about 680 RPM, and I'm going to start off with the roughing gouge just to take off some of these bigger bits. Just a reminder, if you're doing any of this kind of stuff, make sure you wear all of your proper protection, your dust protection, your face shield, your helmet, whatever else you're going to need. I wear a full head protection, including a face shield and a helmet. I have dust protection on, and of course I have my handy dandy dust collection right here. So let's get started. I'm going to be going, like I said, about 680 RPM. I'm going to bring you around so you can see a little bit better. I've got kind of a bad camera angle right there, but I've taken off a good bit here. Alright, I reset the camera angle a little bit, and I reset my tool rest. You can see I've got a nice hollowing out happening here, but it's offset from the rest of the piece. So I'm definitely going to have to come down a little deeper before I'm able to get something that's really what I want it to be. So I've changed my angle a little bit so I can kind of focus on this edge over here and just straightening things out. I'm still working right now with my spindle gouge. It's working real well for getting in here, and it doesn't have as much chance of getting catches like the roughing gouge does. Reset the camera angle a little bit so you can see the progress that's being made. What I'm thinking about at this point, and I'm hoping that this will work, I've got some checks and stuff in here, so I'm still kind of worried about how this is all going to work out. But I'm kind of thinking that this side's going to remain mostly, and this side's going to get cut out a bit, which is going to be a little tricky for me. I've never tried anything like this before. But I'm kind of hoping to have a vessel that is a cutaway, just partially exposed. I think that'll end up looking really neat. It's just going to take a little bit of work, a little bit of care, and one of the tricky things for it also is that I'm not going to be able to go very fast because it's going to stay kind of off balance. So it's going to wobble a lot if I try to go too fast on my lathe. Let's keep going. I'm hogging out a lot of wood here, a lot of material, and it's oak, it's really hard, so I figured let me switch up a bit, and I did sharpen my bowl gouge, and I switched off my tool rest, so I have a stainless steel one now, which stays a lot smoother, gives me a little bit better control, and it allows me to get in here, which the other one doesn't really let me do as well. So I'm just going to keep working here, taking this out. I'm liking how it's coming out so far. Some of the checks and cracks do seem like they go kind of deep, but they're not creating a big problem for me. And I'm really just trying to work this smoothly and hopefully get this taken out nicely. Okay, two things are happening here. One is I'm getting to a point now where I'm starting to break out a little on the edge, so I'm not going to go any further out. I'm just going to work on coming down as much as I can and being as smooth as I can. As you can see, I have a lot of tool marks right here. And I'm trying to avoid breaking out these last few pieces. I'd like to keep them as much as possible, just because I really like the look where it goes from something that's going to be rough to something that's going to be a lot more finished and polished. But obviously with these cracks, it's going to be kind of iffy. I have really good wood that I'm secured into, so I'm not too worried about the piece flying off, but of course breaking could be a problem. The other thing that's happening is I'm getting to a point where I'm kind of leaning in and getting in front of the shot, so I need to change my angle a bit so that I can let you see what's going on, and at the same time I can see what's going on. I'm going to try something a little different this time. Because this piece is open, I'm actually able to see in here a lot from the side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the camera angle over to this side over here. Hopefully you'll be able to see in as I'm working, and I can get a better angle on exactly where my tool is placed. Okay, fresh angle for you, fresh angle for me. Looks like you should be able to see as it goes. I've done a little bit of repositioning with my tool rest and everything else just to get everything going. And if this piece does break apart and explode, you're going to have a really interesting view, and I might lose a camera. So this is not at all what I thought I was going to end up with when I first got a hold of this piece. I'm excited about this because this is just a different thing from anything I've ever done before. I'm going to have to put some CA glue on here to make sure that this bark stays on because I'm really liking this rough look on the outside. I'm going to need to sand the inside, and that scares the heck out of me because I'm not sure how to do that. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with just a Dremel tool and a rotary tool, and just go in and start working on it a little bit that way. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to sand this with it spinning on the lathe because that would just cause some severe injury and some trips to the emergency room, and you know, who knows, maybe a trip to someplace else. So I'm going to take it off of here, and I'm going to start working with it on the bench. There we go. You can see I've got these different levels as I worked through, and just didn't get a chance to get a smooth cut. I tried a few times to get that one final smooth cut, you know, and it just, I would end up with a catch on one side or the other. So instead of having the whole piece fall apart on me, we're here now. And I've got my rotary tool with a sanding drum on it. It's kind of a heavy grit. It's a 120 grit, which is a bit heavy for what I'm doing here, but as long as I'm careful, it should work. Yeah, careful. I'm good at that, right? Good thing is I got rid of a lot of big tool marks. Bad thing is now I have a lot of little tool marks. So this is going to get down to some serious hand sanding. I'm going to start off with a heavy grit. Let me go get that. Alright, slightly used but nice heavy piece of sandpaper. Alright, it doesn't look better, but it feels a lot better. Some of it's gotten pretty smooth. Right over here is still kind of rough. Alright, that's much better. I'm going to go with a finer grit. First I have to get that, because that's a problem right down there. That's better. Alright, a little more sanding and I'll work on the outside. I'm going to show you a bit of the outside now. And I'm just going to do the rest of it kind of off screen to some degree, because there's a lot of sanding that you don't need to watch. It doesn't even get to that zen stage like when you're watching the wood turning part. The sanding part's just kind of boring. So I've got my palm sander and I've got a 120 grit on it. Originally cut with a chainsaw, and you can see the furrows as the chain went through. It's really kind of cool. I'm not leaving those, but I just thought I'd take a second to show you that. You can see each time that chain dug out a piece and just shaved right across. so everything's kind of uneven initially. So I'm going to do the rest of my sanding off screen, and I'll show you the finished piece in a little bit. Just going to show you a little bit of the progress. I've changed up my sandpaper, and I've got it going down pretty smooth. I've been at this for about 10 minutes, so obviously this is going to take a while. This is actually 80 grit that I have on here now. It's taking it down pretty well, but it's going to take a while. Just wanted to show you the progress, show you those lines again, and I've still got to work on this side, and of course the bottom. So, see you again in a little bit. A little update, I've got one side almost completely smooth. The bottom I'm going to leave a little rough. It's got some real deep gouges in it, and it doesn't seem to affect how it sits, and I kind of like leaving that little bit of character as kind of an Easter egg for people to find. This side, the original side that I was sanding, most of my grooves are gone now, but there are some real deep grooves right here, so it's going to take a while longer to sand. I've been sanding this thing for at least half an hour. So, back to it. Quick update. I've got most of the saw marks out of here. Just got a little gouge right there. So that's going to take me a little while to get that taken care of. But look at how the grain is coming out. You can see all these wiggles and squiggles and all these other little bits. So hopefully that'll look really nice when I get a finish on it. Had about an hour of sanding to get all this as smooth as it is now. And my hands feel really funny from the sander. But got it down to a pretty smooth finish at this point. The next thing I'm going to do is just put some glue on all of my edges of my bark. You can see it wants to come up, and I don't want it to separate anymore. I'm liking how that's looking, so I want to keep that right. Just a basic CA type glue. I expect this will change how the finish applies on the edges, you know, right where this glue is here, because it won't absorb as well, but that's okay. I'll sand off some on the edge, help to open the grain up a little bit, but I really want this stuff to be in there and holding this bark on as everything finishes settling out. I think if I'm going to keep doing this kind of stuff, I'm going to need to get some thin CA. By the way, CA is just cyanoacrylate, and there's just a crazy amount of glues on the market that are cyanoacrylate. Just crazy. Alright. That looks pretty good. Give that a little time to set up, and I can put a finish on. Okay, glue set, and I hit it with a 220 grit sandpaper all the way around, smoothed it all off. The grain is coming out really nicely. I'm enjoying that. So I think the next thing is to put on a little bit of mineral oil and just see how it looks. Just a basic mineral oil. Should bring up the grain a little bit. Look at that. Swirls and stuff. Gotta love the wood that comes from a crotch piece like this. And yes, I always giggle a little bit when I think about the fact that it's a crotch piece, but that's the only way to describe it. Really nicely. It's got a lot of waves and wiggles in the grain. So that makes me happy. Let that dry a little bit, buff it a little bit, and I'll start putting on a final finish. And stop tearing apart my paper towels. There we go, a nice coat of tung oil on there. Really like how this piece ended up turning out. There's all sorts of wiggles and waves in it all the way around. The grain is just doing crazy stuff. The cracks and the checking really added some neat features to it. So I'm hoping that the glue will stay real well, and as this settles and everything else, that it'll just get a little bit more character, but it won't fall apart. Thank you for joining me on the Peaceful Woodturner.